October 6th, 2022. Midnight in Singapore. Inside a quiet glass tower, the glow of dozens of monitors suddenly turns crimson. On one screen, lines of blockchain code begin rewriting themselves unstoppable, alive. Within seconds, tokens worth hundreds of millions materialize out of thin air. No alarms, no passwords broken, just creation. In Binance's war room, someone whispers, "It's minting, again." 2 million BNB tokens gone before anyone can blink. A silent heist on the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, executed not by brute force, but by elegance. Code turning against its own maker. Across time zones, engineers scramble, locking bridges, freezing ledgers, shutting down an entire network just to contain the digital hemorrhage. But as the chain is sealed, a single question pulses through every screen left glowing in the dark. How do you stop a thief who never touched your system, only your trust in math itself? To understand the night the blockchain bled, you have to step back into the strange empire that Binance built. By 2022, Binance wasn't just a crypto exchange. It was the exchange, a financial superpower spanning more users than most banks, handling billions in trades every single day. Founded by Changpeng Zhao, or CZ, Binance rode the chaos of the crypto boom like a comet, promising freedom from governments, banks, and red tape. But that freedom came at a cost. Traditional finance runs on centralized authority, someone to call when things go wrong. Crypto runs on code. Immutable, autonomous, unforgiving. When a mistake is made, there's no phone number, no reversal, no refund. To expand faster, Binance built the BNB Smart Chain, BSC, a parallel universe of tokens, contracts, and bridges connecting its blockchain to others. It was meant to be seamless, instant, global. But it also became the perfect playground for those who understand one truth: the bigger the system, the smaller the flaw needs to be. Somewhere buried deep in BSC's token hub, a subtle logic error was waiting, invisible to audits, overlooked by humans. The kind of flaw that doesn't scream, it whispers, softly, until someone finally listens. And on that October night, someone did. They didn't hack Binance, they spoke its language. A few lines of code, elegant, surgical, tricked the system into believing money existed where it didn't. 2 million BNB tokens were minted, like counterfeit bills printed by the system itself. The attacker didn't steal from wallets. They convinced the bridge to gift them the fortune. As the numbers cascaded through the blockchain, Binance's monitoring AI caught something impossible: an address generating wealth faster than physics should allow. The countdown began, minutes to freeze the bridge, seconds before funds vanished across hundreds of decentralized pools. What followed would become one of the most expensive exploits in crypto history, not just for the loss, but for what it revealed: that even the largest, most trusted blockchain could be bent by a mind sharp enough to find the crack in its reflection. This wasn't a hack against Binance's servers, it was a hack against belief itself. Blockchain forensics later reconstructed the moment like a crime scene: every line of code, every packet, every impossible transaction. It began with a bridge. The BNB Token Hub, a mechanism linking Binance's own blockchain to others, was supposed to act like a border checkpoint, verify tokens, validate proofs, and issue mirrored assets. But on October 6th, an attacker found a gap between the gate and the guard, a flaw in the proof verification logic. In plain terms, the system could be tricked into accepting false messages that claimed, yes, these tokens exist, except they didn't. Using that subtle weakness, the attacker crafted a counterfeit proof, instructing the chain to mint 2 million BNB, worth roughly $570 million at the time. It was digital alchemy money conjured from thin air, printed by the blockchain itself. At first, nothing seemed wrong. Validators processed the transaction without alarm. Wallet balances ticked upward. But as Binance's internal monitoring systems detected an anomaly, a newly minted sum far beyond expected parameters, engineers dove into the logs, realizing the unthinkable. Someone had created $500 million. No breach of passwords, no stolen keys, just a flawless imitation of legitimate behavior. Across Slack channels and encrypted chats, panic flared. Freeze the bridge, stop propagation, cut off cross-chain movement now. Within minutes, Binance halted the BNB Smart Chain entirely, a drastic, almost sacrilegious move in a world built on decentralization. Block production stopped cold. Transactions hung suspended mid-air. The network, for the first time, was frozen in fear. clear, but the attacker was already ahead. Before the shutdown, they had managed to move around $100 million worth of stolen assets into various decentralized exchanges, places where funds could be swapped, bridged, and disguised faster than any investigator could trace them. The rest, hundreds of millions, remained trapped in the system, unreachable. To outsiders, it looked like another headline in the chaotic world of crypto. Binance hack, $570 million at risk. But to those inside, this wasn't about the money, it was about control. Because what Binance did next, stopping the blockchain, would ignite a debate that still divides the crypto world to this day. A question whispered in every trading room and Discord channel after that night. If a decentralized network can be paused by one company, was it ever truly free? The morning after the breach, Binance's war room looked less like a tech office and more like a digital crime lab. Monitors glowed with endless transaction hashes. Sleep-deprived engineers leaned over keyboards, tracing trails of stolen coins that branched like veins across cyberspace. Somewhere out there, a phantom wallet was bleeding tokens into the blockchain's bloodstream, splitting, swapping, laundering. Every second counted. They started with the address that started it all, a wallet that had never existed before the attack. The moment it minted the first batch of BNB, it triggered a ripple across dozens of chains. Tornado cash mixers, cross-chain swaps, obscure DeFi pools. The attacker used them all, bouncing funds faster than most could follow. It wasn't just theft, it was choreography. One investigator would later describe it like chasing smoke in a hurricane. Every time they pinned down one address, it split into 5 more. Every time they froze one route, a new one appeared. Binance called in its partners, blockchain analytics firms, law enforcement, liaisons, forensic coders. In total, about $110 million was confirmed as having escaped before the freeze. The rest, roughly $430 million, was locked down. That alone was a victory. But the real question remained, who was behind it? Unlike older hacks tied to state actors or known hacker groups, this one bore no signature, no vanity address, no taunting message, no on-chain brag. It was surgical, clean, and silent, as if written by someone who didn't care about fame, only perfection. What made investigators uneasy wasn't just the exploit itself, but the timing. Crypto markets were volatile. Binance was already under regulatory fire, and the ecosystem's faith in DeFi security was eroding. The breach hit like lightning in an already stormy sky, a reminder that for all its complexity, blockchain was still built by human hands, and humans make mistakes. Yet even as analysts closed in, combing through transaction memos, contract versions, and time-stamped commits, one detail stood out. The vulnerability wasn't hidden by malice, it was born from trust. A misplaced assumption in code review. A small logic oversight in a bridge meant to connect worlds. That's all it took to move $500 million. And in that realization, Binance faced its biggest philosophical crisis yet. Because patching the bug was simple, but restoring belief in code, in decentralization, in security, would take far more than a software update. In the hours after the breach, Binance's founder, Changpeng Zhao, CZ, appeared calm, too calm. On Twitter, he posted a single statement. An exploit on the cross-chain bridge, BSC Token Hub, resulted in extra BNB. We've suspended the chain. Your funds are safe. To the outside world, it sounded like reassurance. Inside Binance, it was triage. The team had just done the unthinkable, paused an entire blockchain. For purists, that act alone was blasphemy. Decentralization was supposed to mean no single entity could flip the switch. And yet, one tweet later, the switch was flipped. In those tense hours, BNB smart chain validators, dozens of independent operators across the globe received direct instructions. Halt production, verify blocks, isolate the exploit. For a network claiming autonomy, it was an extraordinary show of centralized coordination. The breach had revealed something deeper than a bug in the code. It had exposed the illusion of control in a decentralized world. But to Binance, survival mattered more than philosophy. The goal now wasn't defending ideals, it was defending trust. Over the next 48 hours, Binance engineers combed through every transaction, locking any address even remotely tied to the exploit. Bridges were patched. Validators were compensated for downtime. Chain activity resumed cautiously, like a city waking after an earthquake, testing each streetlight and power line before stepping outside again. The numbers began to settle. $570 million at risk, $110 million confirmed gone, $430 million contained. In crypto's history, few hacks had been so large yet so narrowly contained. Some called it luck, others called it genius. but CZ called it a lesson. Binance quietly announced a new initiative, an emergency fund called SAFU Secure Asset Fund for users, designed to cover catastrophic losses. It wasn't the first of its kind, but after the BNB exploit, it became more than marketing. It became a shield, a public declaration that even in chaos, Binance could stand alone. Still, the questions lingered. If Binance could pause a chain, was it truly decentralized? If hackers could mint tokens from nothing, could any blockchain claim immutability? And if the world's largest crypto exchange could be shaken overnight, what did that mean for everyone else? The BNB exploit wasn't the end of a story. It was a warning shot the moment the world's most powerful exchange realized that code is not law when trust breaks first. Weeks after the breach, the blockchain had healed, but the wound it left behind still pulsed under the surface. Binance had moved fast, patched the flaw, reimbursed what was lost, and restarted the chain. Markets stabilized, traders returned. On the surface, everything looked normal again, but inside the crypto world, a quiet reckoning began. Developers and auditors dissected the exploit line by line, tracing the logic error that allowed false proofs to pass verification. It wasn't flashy, no malware, no brute force, just a single misplaced assumption. A reminder that in code, one wrong truth becomes a lie the system believes forever. The hack forced Binance, and the industry as a whole, to confront uncomfortable realities. Bridges once celebrated as the arteries connecting different blockchains were now seen as their weakest points. Billions had already been lost to similar vulnerabilities in Wormhole, Ronin, Harmony, and Nomad. Each breach followed the same haunting pattern: sophisticated infrastructure built on fragile logic. These weren't failures of cryptography, they were failures of imagination. And that's the paradox of innovation. To move fast is to risk blind spots. Binance's smart chain grew rapidly, driven by user demand and low fees. But in that speed lay the seed of its near undoing, a small oversight magnified by scale. Still, Binance's response set a precedent. While others crumbled under similar attacks, Binance froze the bleeding, coordinated with validators, and salvaged most of the funds. It wasn't decentralized purity, it was pragmatic control. And that raised the biggest philosophical debate since Bitcoin's birth. If safety requires centralization, is decentralization ever truly safe? In the months that followed, regulators took notice. Governments had long viewed crypto as volatile, but the Binance exploit was different. It wasn't a market crash, it was a system error that printed $500 million. That kind of failure wasn't just financial, it was existential. Auditing firms rushed to fortify bridges, rewriting verification logic, embedding multi-signature safeguards, and deploying real-time anomaly detection systems. Yet even as the defenses grew, hackers evolved too, always hunting the next invisible gap. And through it all, Binance's brand of confidence endured. CZ remained calm on social media, tweeting reminders that no system is perfect, but transparency builds strength. Behind the words, though, the lesson was clear. Trust is no longer a byproduct of technology, it is the technology. The breach cost Binance hundreds of millions in frozen liquidity, reputational dents, and sleepless nights. But it also bought something else: clarity. Because in that October midnight, when the code betrayed its maker, the crypto world was forced to remember. Every bridge we build, digital or human, carries the same truth. It only takes one overlooked flaw to collapse an empire of belief.